This episode is brought to you by DistroKid.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
Hey gang, today's guest is Canadian rock singer JJ Wilde from Kitchener, Ontario. Together we break down the writing, recording, and inspiration behind her latest single, Best of Me, taken from her EP Best of Me Part 1, and also featured on her brand new full-length album, 2024's Vices. As many of you know, I'm a sucker for a big rock song with hooks. Add in husky, grovelly female vocals, and I'm all in. Best of Me is awesome. So awesome that JJ featured it on 2 of her records, and she says the song is a fan favorite and one of her favorites to play live. JJ spoke about having an album already completed, but scrapping it in the 11th hour. Something just wasn't sitting right with her when she heard the mixes. Upon reevaluating things with her manager, she set out to start fresh, writing more songs and reworking existing ones, Best of Me being one of those. I'm not sure what it sounded like on the original recording, but JJ hit it out of the park here. Chord-wise, there's only 3 in the whole song, but it's what is weaving in and out of those 3 chords that drives it all home. So for all this and a discussion on whether you should take off your shoes when entering someone's home, stick around.
Hey, have you heard? Krista makes a podcast. Hey, have you heard? Krista makes a podcast. Hey, have you heard? Krista makes a podcast. Hey, have you heard? Krista makes a podcast.
Well, hello, JJ. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I am great. You're from Kitchener.
Yep. Kitchener Waterloo.
All right. For those that don't know, that's kind of smack dab in the middle between London, Ontario, and Toronto.
Yeah.
You debuted in 2019, which to me, you're a brand new artist in that respect. I'm sure you've had a career in music. I don't know too much of what happened with your music career prior to just coming out as yourself, JJ Wilde. But talk to me a little bit about that. You released an EP called Wild Eyes, Steady Hands in 2019. What prompted you to strike out on your own?
Well, I mean, I've been pursuing music in one way or another since I was, 18. And I had been in a folk band actually with some of my friends from high school. We all graduated high school, went to, college or wherever, jobs, and then we all kind of came back to our hometown around the same time. And we started jamming together. We created this folk band. We were never signed. It was never anything, massive, but we did have a little bit of success. We were able to tour across Canada and kind of, kids getting in the van and just doing the thing, which really sparked my love for traveling and touring and everything like that. That was kind of my first taste of it. I had been doing solo gigs before that, any bar that I could play at, I'd be playing at. But I had never done like a cross Canada tour. So that was the first kind of taste of touring. And then when that broke up, I was pretty naive to the industry and I kind of thought that was the end. I was like, this folk band that nobody actually knew who we were, that was it. That was like the forever thing. And so I was pretty crushed when that ended, but I knew that I wanted to pursue music and that this was kind of the only life for me. So I went back out on my own again and I started playing more bar gigs and just kind of anywhere that would allow me to play. And then I met my manager, and that's when JJ Wilde became a thing.
I love that because especially now, the way things are, I mean, back in the day, like when my band got signed in the 90s, even then there was so much emphasis on, okay, is your face going to sell magazines? You got to be pretty, you got to be young. And it's not the case. So many artists now on the show, they got to be 30. I've had men and women in their 40s about to just say, look, is this just a pipe dream? When am I going to give this up? And then something happens. They meet the manager. All these little dots start getting connected. The next thing you know, you're like, okay, I'm still here.
Yeah.
I'm still living my dream.
100%. I mean, I think that I still think that there's like an insane amount of like ageism in the music industry, and it's pretty unfair. But I also think that there's more and more artists that are starting out later and finding their break, and I think it's really cool that the music speaks for itself and that it's not so much to do with image and all the things that it used to be. It's getting to a spot where I think there's so much music available and there's so many new artists coming out all the time that people don't it's not the same radio game. It's not the same industry that it used to be. So it's giving everybody a chance, which has its own, faults as well, because now there's just a sea of music. It's almost too much, but it does give a level playing field for everybody.
I've had kids that have heard my band on Spotify, 17, 18, 19-year-olds, and they'll come to the show and they've said it to me. They've said, and they don't mean it but like, I can't believe how old you guys are.
And you're like, oh, thanks. Yeah.
Hey, but I'll take it. They bought a ticket to the show, and had they seen my face, they might not have listened to the song. But they just clicked on it. Your debut single, "The Rush," simultaneously reached #1 on Canada's modern rock, active rock, and mainstream rock charts in May of 2020, right during the pandemic when you can't tour.
Yeah.
Only one of 11 songs to accomplish that feat. Congratulations.
I can't see me if she did. I don't know how I would keep it together. I don't know how I would keep it. It's the rush, it's the lust you can't trust. It's the rush, it's the lust you can't trust.
You quickly followed that with two more back-to-back #1s, Best Boy and Mercy. And then you followed up with your debut album, Ruthless, in 2020. The album won Rock Album of the Year at the 2021 Juno Awards, Canada's answer to the Grammys, making Wilde the first woman to win the award in 25 years. That sounded really bad, what I just said. I didn't mean Canada's answer. I guess the equivalent to the Grammys in the U.S.
It is.
And that you're the first woman to win that award in 25 years since Alanis Morissette won it in 1996. And I got to tell you, I love her. I love Alana Miles, who sang Black Velvet. I love Sass Jordan. I'm a big Sarah McLachlan fan. Something in the water up there in Canada, some of my favorite female singers. And I want to ask you, what are some of your influences? Because I hear some of those aforementioned artists in your vocals.
I mean, my influences are very very broad. There's a lot in there. I think when I was, just discovering music, kind of figuring out what my taste in music was, it was a lot of what my family was listening to, my older brother,
sure,
my dad, and my mom and my sister. I think I gravitated to more of my brother and my dad's music, which was, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd. But then my mom is a lover of like Paul Simon, Bruce Springsteen. So there was a lot of classic, great music, in my opinion. And when I kind of branched out on my own, I really dove into folk music and, Damien Rice, local natives. I mean, Janis Joplin is a huge influence. Amy Winehouse, like if we're talking female vocals, Adele, like those three, I think, Amy Winehouse, Janis, Joan Jett, Adele, it was all really inspiring for me as a woman with kind of a more husky voice.
Yeah.
To listen to these women that also had very powerful, lower register, kind of raspy vocals, being able to be a woman in the industry. Because I feel like a lot of what I had heard before that was, you want to be a higher register, sound pretty. And I'd even gone to college for a performing arts prep program that I actually dropped out of. But that
I was gonna say, how'd that pan out for you?
I mean, I finished it, but anyway. But no, I remember having, professors tell me that my vocals were lazy and that I didn't have a good voice because it was a music theater prep program and they're looking for a very specific voice and a very, music theater is its own thing. And that's definitely not what I am. And
Sure.
I had one professor who kind of pulled me aside and he always had my back, and I still keep in touch with him to this day. And he said, you don't have what they're looking for, but you have something and you should pursue it. It was kind of like, don't listen to them. They're looking for a very specific thing, but you got something. And that was really encouraging because I definitely did feel like I was a little bit out of my realm in that situation. So then to hear, these other women doing their thing with a similar voice, it was really inspiring to me.
That is awesome. Well, I want to ask who produced Best of Me? And I noticed that it came off an EP called Best of Me Part 1, but it's also on your new album Vices, which came out September 20th. So is it the same version of the song?
Yes.
Okay, it is. And
it is, yeah.
Because I couldn't find two. And who produced the track?
So that is Steve Salmon. And then Ryan Short as well. But Steve is like main producer. And I found them through moving to Nashville, and our managers kind of connected, and I met Steve for a beer to see, just catch a vibe, you know what I mean, before you get into the writing, before you get into everything. Yeah. And I remember thinking, oh man, this guy is the real deal, in the sense of, it feels like we're music nerds talking about our favorite, thing, our favorite band, or this, that, whatever. And it was like, okay, I think this is going to be great. And when we went in to kind of test the waters with writing and seeing if we click that way, it literally felt like I was making music with my friends, 16 in my basement. Like, it just felt exciting and free and amazing. And, his writing is amazing. His production is amazing. Really, really glad that I found him. So he did the whole album, EP and the album.
It sounds fantastic. It sounds modern, but I'm a sucker for feel-good rock. I just love it, especially when you attach a husky Janis-type female voice to it. I think it's great. I think the points here where you do stretch and you go up, and we're going to talk about that, I think they really lift the song because you do sit in that lower register. And I really like what's going on here. And I want to get into the song. It's 3 minutes and 14 seconds. There's an 8-bar intro, a deep tom drum single hit, boom, starts this off simultaneously with a distorted, sounds like a synth subtone. What is that?
At the intro?
Yeah, well, kind of going through it. I know you got the stereo guitars, but that low, distorted, like almost, I'm going to say synth stab that's running underneath it. What is that?
Yeah, so we did, oh my gosh, we had a lot of fun with this whole record, messing around with different things. Like, I'm trying to think of that one specifically, because there was one point where we definitely have synths on there. There was, what was a specific one for that song? We did a bass, like there was synth bass, and then a mess of guitars. And then in Guitar Land, Steve started fucking around with these different pedals and would just hit record. And we would literally just sit there for like 30 minutes, an hour, sometimes hours, just making noise to be like, ooh, I like that. Let's do that. Let's loop that, and then fuck with that a little bit. And so a lot of the sounds on this record aren't necessarily real. I mean, they're real sounds, but they were created in a way where it was like, you can't recreate that. There's so many parts that you can't recreate. But in the intro, I believe it's synth bass, there's guitars, and probably a lot of that messing around on the pedals.
Well, I rarely toot my horn here on the show, but I'm at somewhat like 200 plus episodes here. I've gotten pretty good at dissecting and picking out parts. And to your point, yeah, these are created sounds. Like, what is going on here? It's so cool. Again, it sounds modern, but this has like kind of just a happy-go-lucky feel, and it lends itself to what's going on, because aside from E major to A major, there's not much else going on here except the dynamics that are coming in and out of. We're going to get to that in a second. Along with that subtones, the drums are now in, and they're wide open. Big open hi-hat along with bass guitar, stereo guitars, and it sounds like there's maybe a jangly electric and acoustic guitar at the top as well.
Yep. You pegged it.
Okay, so that's there as well, along with an octave guitar playing a variation of the eventual chorus melody. And there's a guitar panned off right before we get into verse 1 that does a musical hook. It's the wow.
Well, oh yeah. So that was the most fun. It's funny because I wrote this song with Austin Goodlow and Jessica Farron in Nashville here. And we wrote it and worked up a version of it that we thought was going to be the album version. Throughout this process, I actually started again. I had a whole I had a whole record that I essentially scrapped and then went back to the drawing board with Steve to reproduce and rework up these songs. And that was like, it was a very difficult decision partway through. We thought that we had the record. We went to Blackbird Studios, we recorded most of what the record is now. And then when I got the mixes back, the initial first ones, it was like, I don't know what was going on, but I just felt like it wasn't right. And it's not that the songs didn't sound good. They sounded great. They were produced, like the production was great and everything, but I just felt like something was missing. And so did my manager. We had this conversation and we were kind of like, okay, we have a tough call here. It's like you either put these out and hope for the best, or we literally go back to the drawing board, we try again and see if it beats it. And I'm so glad I did, because Best of Me actually sounded so different. I mean, essentially it is the song, but the production was different, and that part wasn't in there. That part was a really happy, not a happy mistake, but it was kind of one of those things where we'd get the song to a place, and then it was kind of like, okay, now let's have fun and just see what happens. And that was one of those things where Steve was just doing a take, and it was like, how do we get a little bit more attitude, a little bit more grunge into this very happy-go-lucky rock song? I still want it to feel a little dirty. I still want it to have that like teeth and grit to it. And so we just started messing around with, okay, take a take and try some of this and whatever. And that was just one of those things that happened. And we're like, that one, that's the part. Blah, we all like freak out. We're like, we found it, and it was like one of those things. So that was, and it's so simple. It's literally just wait, like.
Oh no, it's the simplest thing ever, but without it, it's not the same song. And it's interesting. You use it very sparsely. It could have been in this song, in my opinion, more. And I want to talk about that as we get through it. It's very interesting where you put it. And again, I love a feel good song with lyrics like this. Pick myself up and I go home, stumbling along the Yellow Line Road. It's 5 a.m. Sun is creeping in. Took a wrong turn and ended up going out for one until I got stuck. I'm riding on the wrong side again. Rinse, repeat history. I drank 3 shots of misery. Love that line. I'm flying on a high again. Wow.
Nice. I like it.
I mean, I can relate. Drank 3 shots of misery. Okay, it's 5 a.m. Sun's creeping in. I get it. What's going on here?
So this song for me was one of my first times going down to Nashville before I moved, and it's all about making a mess, making the mistakes, and not really giving a shit. Like it was all about going out and meeting people and being in this new city and embracing a little bit of the chaos, embracing a little bit of the, I'm probably making the wrong move here. I'm probably, going to regret this in the morning, but right now seems like the thing to do. And I know we've all been there. There's all,
Yep.
You go out for one. And, when I first started coming to this city, one of my favorite things to do is just to go out by myself, sit down at a bar and make friends with the bartender. And, you just make friends that way. And, you sit next to another person. Hey, what's up? And I ended up making some of my best friends here that way, of just like meeting them when I would be like, I want to put myself out there. I want to get to know people. Like this is, I'm also come from a serving and bartending background. So it was like, this is my comfort zone, right? But then again, you go to the bar, you go out for one to just see what's going on. And then you end up closing down the bar, walking home barefoot. It's like we have all
That's
been there.
very lead singer alpha female of you to do. But I know what you mean though. Like you get someplace. I mean, I I do this to this day. I like to go out to eat by myself. I like to go out and kind of, shut everything off and meet new people. I've met some of the most interesting characters doing exactly what you just laid out. Lots of great things here in verse 1. The drums tucked down here in verse 1, along with the bass guitar. It sounds like there's like a big muff sounding overdriven guitar here that's happening. I love that the verse lyrically is in 3 sections. The third section almost acting as a pre-chorus. After the line, it's 5 a.m., sun is creeping in. We get the wow, wow. We get the hook there. We get the guitar hook. We get our first harmonies on riding and side again. On the line, I'm riding on the wrong side again. We also get harmonies on flying and high again in the third stanza of verse 1. Also on that third stanza, panned left, tucked way back in the mix, there's a palm muted guitar playing this killer little bouncy melody. It's so awesome. And I got to probably verse 2 or chorus 2, and I realized, I'm like, wait a second, was the wow wow at the end of verse 1? And I went back and it's not there before chorus 1. Why wasn't it there?
I just, you know what, we did that intentionally because I felt like if it became the thing, it wasn't as special anymore. You want to hear it, and that's exactly what I wanted, for people to hear it without it
Right.
actually being there, for that to be like what your ear wanted. So you think you got it, but then you listen back, you're like, wait a second. It was a little trick.
That's,
I'm
you know
not gonna
what?
lie. It was
I love
intentional.
it. I love that you're that candid about it, because I figured you would say what most people come on here and say. They go, oh, I don't know, it just wasn't mixed in that time, or we just left it out, or I don't know why the mixer or the producer left it out.
Oh no,
But this,
very intentional.
that's awesome. That's awesome. I think it's so cool. And again, I love that little palm muted guitar there. Just, it's very subtle, but there's so much going in and out with this song. And when I sat down with the guitar to comb through it, I said to myself, man, I'm glad I'm not singer-songwriter guy in a bar that has to perform this song, because it's E to A for most of it. It's what the instrumentation is doing, and we forget that. For all of it.
The whole thing. Yeah.
We forget that as songwriters sometimes, that, when I get too highbrow and start throwing in chords for no reason, when they don't need to be there, they don't need to be there. Chorus 1, right off of verse 1.
It's almost like I live for the thrill of it, like a roller coaster ride that I'm not strapped in. No fight on my vices. Last cigarette out in the rain. I promise myself I won't do it again, and I'll try. But all my vices get the best of me. Get the best of me.
It's almost like I live for the thrill of it, like a roller coaster ride that I'm not strapped in. No fighting, all my vices. A last cigarette out in the rain. I promise myself I won't do it again, and I'm trying. But all my vices get the best of me. Great lyric.
Thank you. Yeah, that I mean, it is just true to my nature, I guess, of constantly, well, sometimes it seems like constantly having to relearn the same lessons over and over again. And I think there's an art to that a little bit. As long as you can take something from the mistakes you're making, I think they're worth making. You know what I mean? There's so many times where I feel like, sorry, that train's really loud.
That's awesome. No, I heard it.
That's East Nashville for you, baby.
I was going to say, I know where you live. You're in East Nashville. You're over by the basement.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can hear it.
I can hear it.
And at 2 a.m., you can also hear it. No,
I'm sure.
no, but those lyrics for me, it is a constant thing. I feel like as you grow as a human and evolve personally, you start to recognize the patterns that you hold and the lessons that you continue to relearn, and you recognize those. So for me, as I have been evolving and trying to grow personally, it doesn't mean I'm not going to make some of the mistakes or do the thing that I might not love in the morning of, yeah, I stayed out a little later than I should have. I had another smoke, I had this, whatever. But I think the part of it is recognizing those things and then choosing maybe I do want to do this tonight and that's okay. Maybe I will stay for an extra drink. Maybe I will close down the bar. Maybe I will have a smoke, whatever. And recognizing that. And I think that was part of the growth of then being able to recognize those and not do those decisions sometimes. Or if you feel like it do, but having that power and taking that control over yourself and not, just allowing the moment to sweep you away, but more so consciously making those choices. I don't
Yeah,
know what's worse.
well, yeah, it's the proverbial dog chasing its tail, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, sometimes we have every intention of, I'm not going out tonight. I'm staying
Yeah.
home. Next thing you know, it's 5 a.m. We don't know how we got there,
Exactly.
right?
And that's when the best things happen. I'm sorry, but that's when the best memories are made. You can't change my mind.
It takes me back, just like that. Takes me back.
Hey, everybody, we'll be right back with lots more with JJ Wilde after a few words from our sponsors.
Looking to elevate your music career? DistroKid is a digital music distribution service that enables musicians to distribute their music to online stores and streaming platforms such as Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, Amazon, Tidal, and many more. DistroKid collects earnings and payments, sending them to you, the artist. With DistroKid, artists unlock a world of possibilities. From easily paying collaborators with splits to securing your music with DistroLock, DistroKid covers all bases. Plus, you can promote your releases with Hyperfollow and create eye-catching visuals with a Spotify Canvas generator, all for free. But that's not all. Introducing the DistroKid app, now available on iOS and Android. Artists can manage their releases, view streaming stats, and withdraw earnings, all from the palm of their hand. And for those looking to perfect their sound, check out Mixia. With its simple interface and customizable mastering options, artists can make their music sound polished and professional within minutes. And don't forget about Instant Share, DistroKid's newest feature. Share large files securely with collaborators, producers, and more, ensuring your music streams at the highest quality. Ready to take your music to the next level? Download the DistroKid app and explore their suite of tools today. Plus, listeners can enjoy 30% off their first year by visiting distrokid.com/VIP/DeMakes. That's distrokid.com/VIP/DeMakes.
Storms a brewing? Crocs Echo Storm, that is. It's their most striking sneaker that is the perfect blend of form and function. From a sink-in soft feel to a seamless slip-on design, the Storm will help you build your streetwear style while supporting you wherever the day takes you. Plus, there are brand new colorways you won't want to miss. Shop Crocs Echo Storm on crocs.com today.
Hey friends, have you been loving Krista Makes a Podcast? Well, spread the love by leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Don't hesitate to share what you enjoy about the show in an actual written review on Apple Podcasts. Not only does it help more people discover us, but we often read reviews in the wrap segment of the show. It's a quick, cost-free way to support us and takes just a minute of your time. Your reviews mean the world to us and help us keep the podcast thriving. Thank you for being a listener, and thank you for being a friend.
Just like that, moving fast, it takes me.
And now, back to the show.
Some cool stuff here in chorus one. It sounds like there's double vocals here, lead vocals along with the harmonies. Am I hearing that in the chorus?
Yes, we did. We did a lot of, the gang vocal on the harmonies is probably where you're hearing the most of the bigness of the vocals. I
Yeah.
tend not to do doubles of my voice. For some reason, it has to be the right song. I don't know why, but for me, I don't love a double of my own voice. But in this song, I believe there was doubles. I can't remember.
You got a grovelly texture to your voice.
Yeah,
and
sometimes
doubling
yeah.
it could be tough because the grovel's a little different than the next time you do it. So I could see that it works great here. I'll tell you what I'm looking at right now when I see the chorus, and it's really cool because I highlighted some words here. I call them focus words or feature words, and rap artists, dance will do this a lot. They'll pick up, and there's big harmonies on these words. There's harmonies on every bit of the chorus here, but there's big harmonies on fighting vices, trying vices. And I like that. I circled those because that's where those big, you start getting the big high harmonies on those parts. And wow, what a lyric that is by itself. Fighting vices, trying vices, and just going in that circle.
That is kind of the whole thing of the song. It is trying things to know if that's what you have to experience things yourself, right? So yes, you can fight things, yes, you can give in to them, and both are okay. It's okay to
Right.
make this decision. It's okay to say no, I'm staying in tonight, but it's also okay to be like, no, I'm gonna go out. Or it doesn't even have to be about going out. But you know what I mean? Sometimes we lean into the chaos, we lean into the discomfort, and sometimes we lean into the safety. Both are fine, and I think there's a time for both. And this song, that whole thing of fighting vices, trying vices, that's what it's all about.
Very cool. Well, same overall instrumentation here in chorus one as the intro. Amazing harmonies, as I said. And there's an awesome descending octave guitar part that happens in the chorus here that's absolutely killer. The last line, vices get the best of me, the vocal only. And it hits hard by itself that time with no drums, anything. I love that. We
Thank
get
you.
an 8-bar re-intro. Halfway through, you say, get the best of me again. Just a single voice there. And then at the very end of this 8-bar reintro, guess what? We get a wow. The hook comes
Yeah.
the hook comes back. I've been vindicated. It comes back to launch verse 2.
Hate to put a note that I'll be back, 'cause it's not the first time and it's not the last. I'm deep in the deep end. Always holding on when I'm coming down. If I'm already gone, can I be found? Is this what I'm meant to be, my own worst enemy? So let me sit here and drink my misery. It's almost like I live for the thrill.
Hate it, but I know that I'll be back. Great line. 'Cause it's not the first time and it's not the last. I'm deep in the deep end. Always holding on when I'm coming down. If I'm already gone, can I be found? Is this what I'm meant to be, my own worst enemy? So let me sit here and drink my misery.
So, I mean, pretty self-explanatory for some, but yeah, it's all playing on that devil angel on your shoulder of what you want to do versus what you should do, of allowing yourself to to be reckless and embracing the recklessness, and then not feeling bad about it. And there's something about that kind of self-deprecating, like, let me sit here and drink my misery. But sometimes you have to do that. Sometimes you got to sink down so you can feel what you want to feel and then bring yourself back up out of it. And there's something about recognizing those patterns in yourself when I'm talking about like self growth and trying to evolve and recognizing your destructive patterns. Again, it's okay to recognize them and to change from them. But I think sometimes you have to just do that one last time to really get that change and to want that change. Because if you don't feel those lows and the kind of self-sabotaging habits that a lot of people have, that I have myself personally, if you can't recognize those and make those mistakes, you're never going to change from them. So for that, it's like, hate it, but I know that I'll be back because I know I'm not done yet. I'm not
Yeah.
done my reckless phase. I know I'm in this for a little bit, and that's okay. And I think the whole thing is recognizing that.
Something I forgot to mention, in chorus one, we do get relief from the E major to A major. We go to F sharp on the word vices there. And
Yes.
I bring that up because it happens in verse 2 on the last line. So let me sit here and drink my misery. It goes to the F sharp there. I absolutely love it. Subtle, but it really makes the part. It's just enough to get out of that world for a second. We get harmonies here on deep in and deep end, and we get a harmony on this, what I'm meant to be, my own worst enemy, and so let me sit here and drink my misery. And that's an interesting lyric, drink my misery, because if you think about it in literal terms, it's like, okay, she's sitting there having a brandy or a beer or whatever. But it could also mean, that's why I love lyrics. You never really know. I drink my misery all the time. I'm not even drinking something in my mouth. I'm drinking my own insanity.
Yeah, 100%. I think it goes both. I think it honestly does go both ways. It's a literal,
Yeah.
you get everybody gets into ruts or dark places and turns to booze, and you're drinking, or sometimes you're just drinking too much and that gets you down as well. You're getting over something, you just want to be reckless. Like, there's so many reasons for just kind of letting yourself go a little bit, and sometimes you need to do that to collect yourself back again. But also, I think drinking misery, again, it's like a mental game. It's like sometimes you sit in it a little too long and you're just kind of soaking up that negativity, and misery loves company, so the longer you sit there, the more it's bubbling up, and it goes that way too. It's, literal and figuratively.
Verse 2 here, again, if we're just going to break it down to singer-songwriter in the corner, we got two chords going on here, but wow, the feel. All three stanzas in verse 2 do something different. I absolutely love it. The whole feel changes here in verse 2. The drums go, in the first part, to a tom-based beat, bass guitar, that deep synth tone. There's a guitar pan left playing a muted melody, and a guitar panned off right playing the higher, sparkly stuff. On the second stanza, always holding on when I'm coming down. If I'm already gone, can I be found? The drums go to a shuffle beat there. The melody and delivery changes on this line. It's almost, JJ, like you go to a rap swagger here on this part, and that guitar panned off right gets really playful here. And on the last stanza, is this what I'm meant to be, my own worst enemy? So let me sit here and drink my misery. The drums switch grooves yet again. Big hi-hat here, 4 on the floor. We go to that F sharp. And on this last line, the vocal delivery, it's like this tough staccato thing you have going on here. The lead vocal goes up an octave, and with the harmony, this part just lifts. The dynamics are great there.
Thank you. Yeah, we really tried to, when writing this, we sat down and wrote each part. Now, of course, the drummer was embellishing and like really took that to another place, but there definitely was a very intentional part of writing this with the drums, where I'm a sucker for toms. I love rolling big toms. I love it. It's a very constant theme in a lot of my songs because I just love the sound, and I love a big snare. There's certain drum tones that I just love, and toms are one of them. But I think with the changing of the patterns and everything, it was just kind of that, this is going to be an E to A song. Let's make dynamics where we can and have fun with it and try to kind of think outside the box of just what it could sound like, and make them all kind of individual parts, which is kind of a constant theme in my writing.
Well, a lot of times now, everyone's recording digitally. You copy and paste stuff. This is not a copy and paste job, but was the discussion ever there of, this is just verse 2. It could be the same as verse 1, or was the idea like, no, we have to make each part kind of stand out?
It was that. It was, because we wrote it with programmed drums, and we were like writing each part in the room, and it was like, well, this needs to change now. I want this to, and that's also a theme with I like when the second verse is just a little bit different than the first. I rarely do, verse and the verse similar. I'm either changing a melody, or I'm changing the drums, or I'm changing something, because I just want something fresh by the time you get to the second verse. And so, that was another intentional thing, where it's like, I want these to all be, I like when songs kind of go like this, if that makes sense. It starts here, and you kind of go up and up with adding, and then at the end it becomes this, mess.
This definitely builds like what you just laid out, but a lot of times, and I've heard songs where they just went for too much on the second or third verse. They went too far away. It almost sounds like
There's
departure.
a fine line.
And this is so starkly different from verse 2 to verse 1, but yet there's continuity here. I don't feel like, whoa, I'm in a different song now. And I really appreciate and respect that about it.
Thank you.
Chorus 2 comes right off of verse 2. Same overall instrumentation and lyrics and vocal placement as chorus 1. get those great harmonies on fighting, vices, trying, and vices again. And then again, we're building, and the drums of this track, we get a drum fill this time when you say best of me. And later, you know what's coming, an even bigger drum fill that we'll get. But I love that. The first time there was nothing. Now we get the drum fill with the vocal. And then we go back into an 8-bar re-intro. And I love this one. Halfway through, we get the lyric, get the best of me, just a single vocal from you. And then an open string guitar lead part. It's like just this breath of fresh air that comes in. It's the same part, but it's just got this great, I don't know, it's just like, feels like real rock and roll, something Tom Petty or something would do. It just, the
I love Tom Petty. That's such a compliment.
Yeah, it's like Petty or Chrissy Hine did this. Pretenders would do a lot of open string, just simple stuff, but just feel good rock, I call it. Halfway through, we get another guitar that sounds like it's crying, like it's wailing. That's the emotion I got. It moved me.
Amazing.
How did that come about? Was it like we need something else besides this open Mike Campbell part?
I think you know, a lot of the interesting, you know, parts came from once the song was written and we had kind of got the basics of the production and the parts that we wanted, we would go back and just have fun for a few takes. And it would be having fun with, mostly it was guitars and trying out different tones, different sounds. What does this need? What do we want? But it was all very intentional of, okay, how do I feel? What do I want to feel? What is missing? And like, there was a lot of that in discussion. And a lot of times it was just messing around and the right thing came out and it was like, and as soon as that happens, you know when it is. And,
right.
And it was very collaborative where, you know, Steve and I would be, and Ryan would be in the room and it's like, okay, let's just take a pass. And then Steve would just start noodling a little bit and testing some things out. And then, you know, I'd go, oh, I love that tone, but make it sound a little bit more like crunchy or make it sound a little bigger or this, that. And then, you know, he gets to work and he starts messing around again. And it was a lot of like collaborative building off of things. And then it was, okay, let's just try a take where you have fun, the song's rolling, just some ear candy, whatever you think. And a lot of it was just that. And then landing on the right part and instantly being like, there it is. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yay. And then building off of that. So it was really collaborative and really fun and just kind of, that's what I like to call like it's all fun, but that's my favorite part is when it's done and you just get to do the little additions of what
Oh yeah.
of the ear candy of what you want to hear and the little parts are my favorite.
The little sprinkles on top. Well,
Yeah.
I gotta be honest, I'm glad, and you should be glad that I was nowhere near the room you were in when you were writing this song, because if I would have gotten involved, I probably would have been like, okay, here's the bridge. Let's take a big departure and go somewhere else. But you guys did not do that. The bridge is awesome. The whole band is gelling rhythmically. When I mean that, you're all together. Drums, bass, stereo guitars, and your vocal are all locked, kind of doing this staccato thing.
5:03 a.m. Sun is creeping in. It's almost like I live for the thrill of it. Should be saying no, here we go again. Lost my shoes. It's almost like I live for the thrill of it.
It's 5:03 a.m. Sun is creeping in. It's almost like I live for the thrill of it. Should be saying no. Here we go again. Lost my shoes. Fuck.
That's my favorite line I've ever written.
Yeah, I mean, lost my shoes. Fuck. What'd your parents think of that one?
So, they loved it. That was a really fun part to write because we had gotten to the bridge, which is, in my mind, sometimes the hardest thing to write. Because it's like, oh, let's go for a departure. Let's do something different. Let's change up the chords. Like, you always want to do that. And a lot of the times it's so unnecessary. Like, a lot of the times, and we went through that phase of like, okay, let's try this, let's try that. And nothing was kind of coming out. And finally it was like, well, maybe it doesn't actually have to change. What do we want to say here? And we had all kind of agreed that it was like, let's create the chaos. That painting a picture of what this song is encompassing, of that chaos, of that recklessness, and like how would you describe that? And then so we kind of started talking, and it was like, I don't know, like what's something that you do when you've had too much to drink, or what's something at the end of the night that like blah blah, blah. And we stumbled upon "Lost My Shoes," and we were like, wait, that's kind of fun. Like we said it as a joke, and then it was like, wait a second, that's actually pretty funny. And then fuck just felt normal. Like it just felt natural to be like, ah, fuck. Like it's like, ah, I lost my shoes. It was, yeah.
Well, and
it was
listen,
kind of a joke.
not trying to come off weird here. I've never lost my shoes drunk. I think that's more of a girl thing, but I don't know. But
Well, think
have you
about
lost have you lost your shoes?
I've definitely lost my shoes. But think about like when you're at a house party or something. We're thinking
Right.
back to house parties when there was a pile of shoes at the front door. You know what I mean? Or like,
Okay.
I don't know. Right?
Hold on.
And you take home the wrong shoes.
Well, a couple things. This is kind of we're kind of getting away from the song here, but I'm from Michigan, not too far from where you're at. I'm probably 2 hours from Kitchener, growing up in the Detroit area, maybe a little bit longer, 2 or 3 hours. We had a rule growing up. It was a northern thing. When I moved to Florida, no one did this. I was like, what's wrong with these people? You take your shoes off in the house.
Yeah.
That's something very important. And women wear a lot of shoes that don't have straps or laces on them. They're easier to kick off than guys.
Yeah,
so that
kick off your shoes.
That would explain it too. But that's a northern thing. Take off your shoes.
Oh, it totally is. I noticed that in Nashville here. Like no one takes off their shoes. I'm like, wait, what? You're just walking around in this
you
city
just walk
and
the
you just bring that
dog poop
in?
outside. Yeah.
Yeah. It's wild. But yeah, I guess that shows my Canadian is showing in that lyric.
There you go. A couple killer things here. There's harmonies on everything here in the bridge. On Thrill, there's a note you go to there that's just, it's awesome. It's like this high harmony. And the whole band at once goes bump, bump, bump on Lost My Shoes. And then we get what I call the old bump, bump. It's the kick snare, and the kick drum and the snare drum, bump bump, happen when you say fuck, and that launches into chorus 3. Again, chorus 3, same instrumentation and lyrics as the previous chorus, but on the last line, get the best of me. Now we get the big Van Halen drum fill here. It's the big rock fill, and it's awesome. It's awesome. Now, did you talk about that too? Because what's really interesting, JJ, is as we've combed through this, very few times do I find artists that are this calculated. And I mean that with the utmost sincerity. I'm like, wow, everything we've talked about, like, nope, that was there. Was this drum part talked about? It's got to be a big fill this time.
Yeah. I mean, at least for me, when I think about a song, I think of it almost as like a production or a play or something. And it's like, I want, at least for this type of song, not for every song, but for this type of song where you want it to be high energy, I always try to think of like, I want each chorus to be a little different. I don't want the listener to have heard the same thing, because by the time you get to that third chorus, we need something that's going to keep that same energy from the second and bring it up to like what I like to say, like the finale of the song. So, I envision like a firework moment or something. Like I'm a visual person. And so for that, it's like, how do we create this energy? I don't think it needs louder, more guitars. So it's like, let's create it with the drums of that, like really showing that this is the final moment of the song. But that was definitely calculated.
It's almost like I live for the thrill of it, like a roller coaster ride that I'm not strapped in, no fight on my vices. Last cigarette out in the rain, I promise myself I won't do it again. I'm trying, but all my vices get the best of me. Get the best of me.
I got to ask you now, because at the end here, I'm hearing panned off left. Is that a shaker that comes in, or is that the acoustic guitar turned up really loud? Because I hear percussiveness panned off left. Do you know?
I think there was a shaker. I'm trying to think back to when we recorded it.
I'm thinking the acoustic was maybe
Yeah, I
EQ'd
don't
differently.
think we put any shaker in it. Yeah.
It's really, and I went back to for the top of the song, I went through the chorus. I'm like, is that there? And I'm listening, and it's not till the very outro. I love it. And I think it's acoustic guitar, and it's absolutely killer. And the song ends with our old friend. Wow, it comes in there. We haven't
Yeah,
heard it in
get
about
to
a
hear
minute.
it one last time.
We haven't heard it in about a minute and a half. What was the reason for tying up the song with that?
It felt right. It felt like we kind of that was the initial hook in my mind at the beginning of the song, where it kind of comes in right before. And the fact that I didn't want it to be every single time, but I knew I wanted to bookend the song because that quickly became my favorite part that we had created, that favorite little hook. But I did think if we overdid it, if we played into that too much, then it would lose the specialness that it had. But I had to do it at the end. I just had to.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't know. I probably would have messed your song up even more. I probably would have put it in more. I like it. I'm a sucker for things like that. I think it's awesome. And then that happens the first time since the reintro of chorus 1. And we get it here at the end. And then the song ends with that and like an ambient reverb that kind of fades out and comes to an end. And I'm assuming that this song has went over well with your fans live. It was on the EP, and you put it on the brand new record. So I know it's doing well for you. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been really fun playing it live. We've been playing it live actually for quite a while because I wrote it a while ago and we've been testing it out, but it does well with the crowd for sure.
Awesome. Well, check out Vices. It is out now. Best of Me's the second track on the record. And you're heading out on your own headlining All My Vices tour in October and November throughout the U.S. and Canada. That's awesome. Who are you going to be out with?
So we're taking Fionn. It's a duo, 2 girls, rock, alt kind of, really great vibe. And then we're having local bands for the first to 3. So it's going to be great. I'm really excited. I can't wait to tour again. The headlining tour has been, I think, a year, or I can't remember last time we were out. 2021, I think. No, 2022.
Okay.
2022. I don't know what year it is. But it's exciting. It's exciting to tour the new record. My new songs are always my favorite songs. You know what I mean? Like, it's like you're excited about them. A lot of these songs we haven't played live. So testing out new songs to the audience, showing a brand new set, bringing something fresh and new. I'm really excited.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for carving out some time for us here today. I really appreciate it, and best of luck.
Thank you for having me.
I don't care about you anyway. Why you gotta be so? You're so toxic. When you talk shit, you run your mouth around like I'm not gonna hear it. You're such an addict, you gotta have it. Why you talk that shit? Doesn't make you feel better, like you're a winner, but you're always gonna lose when you're better. What goes around comes back around, babe. Why you talk that shit? Why you being so toxic?
Hey everybody, the song you're hearing right now is I'm Not Crazy, You're Just an Asshole from JJ Wilde's new album Vices, which is out now, so go check that out. And don't go anywhere, we got lots more Chris DeMakes a Podcast coming right up after the break.
What makes a song a smash on the charts? Is it talent? Luck? Timing? Well, as chart analyst and pop critic Chris Molanphy would say, it's all that and more. Chris hosts Hit Parade, a podcast from Slate, where he tells tales from more than a half-century of pop chart history. Through storytelling, trivia, and song snippets, he dissects how the artists you love or hate dominated the airwaves and shaped your memories forever. He's explained why Steely Dan is yacht rock and Jimmy Buffett isn't, why girl groups dominated the early 60s and boy bands the late 90s, how the members of disco band Chic wrote a bass line that launched hip-hop, how Taylor Swift pivoted from country to pop, how Sam Cooke invented soul and James Brown invented funk, and what exactly a one-hit wonder is, and whether the band Aha is a one-hit wonder. I think you'd really like it. So for tales of the hits from coast to coast, make sure to follow Hit Parade wherever you get your podcasts.
Do you know what it takes to be iconic? You are iconic. I am iconic. I love iconic agua. I drink iconic agua every day. Join the movement. Hydrate with iconic agua. Find iconic agua in all Kroger and Ralph stores across America. Because when you're thirsty, there's only one way to hydrate. And that's with the world's best tasting spring water on earth. Hydrate responsibly. Iconic agua, where hydration meets greatness.
Hey there, Krista Makes a Podcast listeners. Ready to take your podcast experience to the next level? By signing up for the supporting cast at KristaMakes.com, you not only ensure the continued production of our show, but also unlock exclusive perks. Subscribers receive a weekly bonus episode of our other podcast, The After Party, co-hosted by Chris Fafalius and myself. Many fans rave that The After Party is just as enjoyable as the main show. And with close to 200 music-centric episodes in the archive, there's a treasure trove of entertainment awaiting you. Thank you for tuning in and for your support in keeping the podcast going strong. Join us at KristaMakes.com and let's keep the fun conversations going.
As we near the end of the show, here's a band you might not know.
Welcome to this week's Band You Might Not Know. If you'd like your band to be considered for Krista Makes a Podcast, email your best song via MP3 only and a short bio to bandyoumightnotknow@gmail.com. This week's featured artist is Dean Z, a new project from Jason Chase, who has played drums and written songs for Second Shot and La Manta. He decided to get out from behind the drum kit and start his own band, along with Steve Smith of Symphony of Distraction, on guitar, bass, and backing vocals. Jason did the rest. Here's a snippet of their song, We've Got Too Much of a Past to Ever Have a Future.
Now I just need to get free from you. I can't go on living like this anymore. And we've got too much of a past to ever have a future. So consider this my bittersweet goodbye. Yeah, we thought that it would last. Best intentions notwithstanding, gonna lose my fucking mind. So I'm saying goodbye.
The Wrap with Chris and Chris.
So, Chris, I thought that episode was really awesome. I'm really thankful for Krista Makes a Podcast this week because it's because of our podcast that I now know about JJ Wilde, which I think it's kind of wild that I didn't know about her considering how huge she is in Canada. But I think she'll make her mark here in the United States as well because it's kind of undeniable. Her music's kind of undeniable.
Yeah, it's awesome. And, she may not feel like a newer artist, but she's come out within the last 5 years. To me, the longer that I go in this journey, 5 years is absolutely nothing. So the world is her oyster at this point.
Yeah, I don't feel that bad about not knowing her because she's only been around for 5 years. So I'm glad I know her now. Chris, I thought it was really interesting that she had professors who were really critical of her voice because she has such a strong voice. As someone, I know that you're a fan of people like Joan Jett and, female rock singers. She's just awesome. I can't believe anyone wouldn't recognize that.
She is, I think that it may had something to do with it. She was kind of doing like theater performance, and back in the days, there was no microphones. And these repertory theaters, they were acoustically designed so that you would get up there and rah, and you'd have to launch your voice. And she doesn't have that kind of a voice. And maybe that's what they were talking about. She does sing in that lower husky growl that she has. I don't know. They're definitely wrong. And I think the easiest would have been, the obvious, I should say, would have been to just say, Janis Joplin,
sure.
And I'm glad I didn't say it. I had it in my notes, but she said it for me because I thought that she, would have had something to say about Alana Miles, Sass Jordan, or Alanis, but turns out those weren't really her influences, which I found interesting.
Yeah. I thought it was really cool that she talked about going to a new place and just putting yourself out there and making new friends. Are you that way? Because I'm really not that way. I think maybe I've just been spoiled by being friends with the same people I've been friends with my whole life. So I feel like I am outgoing and also at the same time real like not outgoing at the same time. I don't know. I'm sure drinks help with that. But you said that you are that way a little bit, right? You'll go make new friends?
Yeah. You know, I to this day, I'll just take off and go get lunch by myself when I'm on the road. And I don't mind it. I've talked to some people that frightens them. Go eat by yourself. That'd be weird. And, you know, to me, it's not. I've struck up some great conversations with people in restaurants and bars across the globe. So I definitely related to that.
I thought in reference to the second verse, when she was talking about the lyrics of the second verse, she said, sometimes you got to sink down and feel what you got to feel and then pull yourself out of it. And that is so true in my experience. It's like, you just got to let yourself, if it's a transition in your life, if it's a down point in your life, sometimes you just got to live in it for a while. And I know I've done that many times. And then eventually you got to be like, okay, that's enough. Pull yourself back out of it. But that really struck a chord with me when she said that.
Yeah, sometimes the gas pedal doesn't work when you're in the middle of the storm. Mm-hmm. You got to weather the storm. You got to sit through it. And then, from sitting through it, you gain perspective later. She just seems like the whole recording experience when she was talking about finding that right inspiration. In this case, it turned out to be her manager who she met. And they just started connecting the dots, writing songs with other people, her producers, and she had scrapped an album, which I have no experience in. Have you ever written a record and just sat on it and never released it?
No. I mean, it's songs, certain songs, not a whole record. No.
Yeah, and I've known many artists that have done that, and I find that very, very odd, only because I've never done it before. But she came out of that storm, wrote this next batch of songs, and here we are. And the song's good enough and performing well enough, and she said it's doing wonders in front of a live audience, that she not only included it on her EP, but it's also on the new record.
Yeah, for sure. And this song's just undeniable to anyone who likes rock music and such a distinctive voice. I thought it was really cool. Speaking of recording, Chris, I've been there. You've been there. She said they would have the basics down of the song, but then they'd go back and they'd have fun. They would add, you called them sprinkles or ear candy, whatever you want to call it. And you can hear the artist having fun in the music. You're picking out those fun parts and having that willingness and openness to the fun ideas, to trying things, even if you're trying things for hours for one little part. I mean, it could take a song to a whole other level. I love it, dude. I'm sure this is this way for you too with your bandmates. I love it when I write a song, and maybe I've written the basics. I've written the melodies, I've written the lyrics, and some sort of basics that I've put together in a Logic session or something. I love sending it to my bandmates and hearing the touches they put on it. And then it takes a song to a whole other level too. I love that stuff.
It's what takes it from a demo to making it a real song that everyone can absolutely get behind.
Yeah. That's really, really cool. Hey, I'm a fan, man. I'm a JJ Wilde head now.
I am too. And for everyone out there listening, keep your eyes and ears peeled. She'll be out on the road this October and November. So definitely go check her out. And also check out ChrisDeMakes.com, where you can sign up for our supporting cast, where you get bonus episodes each week of the after party, where Chris and I will, we'll just shout at you for a half hour. People tend to love it though, Chris. Some people say they like it more than the main feed here. I don't know.
Is there a third Chris? Because you just said Chris and I. We need a third
Chris and I? Okay. Well, maybe, and you're not going to edit that. You're going to leave it in there and make me look dumb.
That in there.
Go to ChrisDeMakes.com and check us out. And also, keep leaving those 5-star reviews on Apple and Spotify. Chris, do you have one ready for us?
I do have one. I have one from Jack Robideau. I believe that's how you say, or maybe Robidoux or Robideau. Jack, I don't know how to say your last name. I've seen it many times. But he wrote hits and gave us 5 stars. And he said, there are so many songs I hadn't heard of from artists I already enjoyed. The YMCA down the street from the clinic, Drag My Body, just as a few examples. And the fact that John Oates was brought on to talk about Hall & Oates, my favorite band. 5 stars across the board. Keep the hits coming. Thanks, Jack. That was a really nice review.
I love it. Well, keep those reviews coming, because people stumble across our show. They read the reviews, and sometimes that's all we need to chum the waters, Chris, and get a new listener here at Chris DeMakes a Podcast.
We got to chum those waters.
We gotta chum those waters. Oh, what is that? I can hear the Chris DeMakes a Podcast music fading up. We must be coming close to the end here. Want to thank this week's guest, JJ Wilde, for sitting in the hot seat. Chris, I see you laughing at me still. Make sure you edit me and make me sound good here. Thanks to JJ Wilde for sitting with us this week, and we'll see you next week.
One Hit Thunder is a podcast where we both celebrate and have a good laugh about bands and artists that had just one hit that we all know. Each week, we're joined by a guest from the world of music or comedy to learn more than you ever thought you would about some songs that you can't forget. And we decide if they brought the One Hit Thunder or were nothing more than a one-hit blunder. Look, if you listen to the show, you're probably going to laugh, and I guarantee you're going to crush next time the bar has music trivia. Tag Team, Jane Child, Meredith Brooks, Looking Glass, Sean Mullins, Eiffel 65, EMF, Crash Test Dummies, Crazy Town, Chumbawamba. We have hundreds of episodes in our back catalog and a new episode each week, so pass the Dutchie, make sure you're connected, and subscribe to One Hit Thunder wherever you get your pods.
Ever wonder what a punch from Elton John feels like?
Or how you'd cope with having turned down the chance to be in Nirvana?
Or what signal Keith Richards gives when he wants you to get the hell out of his hotel room?
Fans of Too Much Effing Perspective don't have to wonder, because they've heard these exact stories and a jillion others on our podcast. I'm Alex Hoffman, former tour manager for Radiohead.
And I'm musician and comedy writer Alan Keller. On the TMEP show, we get guests like Nancy Wilson from Heart, Jeremiah Freites from the Lumineers, and Modern Family's Julie Bowen to tell us things they may have only shared with their therapist, clergy, or a TMZ stringer.
So join us on Too Much Effing Perspective. That's EFFING Perspective. The only podcast you crank up to 11.
One Hit Thunder is a podcast where we both celebrate and have a good laugh about bands and artists that had just one hit that we all know. Each week, we're joined by a guest from the world of music or comedy to learn more than you ever thought you would about some songs that you can't forget. And we decide if they brought the One Hit Thunder or were nothing more than a one-hit blunder. Look, if you listen to the show, you're probably going to laugh, and I guarantee you're going to crush next time the bar has music trivia. Tag Team, Jane Child, Meredith Brooks, Looking Glass, Sean Mullins, Eiffel 65, EMF, Crash Test Dummies, Crazy Town, Chumbawamba. We have hundreds of episodes in our back catalog and a new episode each week, so pass the Dutchie, make sure you're connected, and subscribe to One Hit Thunder wherever you get your pods.